we're getting rid of the rust today. Got the floor all pulled up. Got a couple grinders, using wire wheels, going over all this surface rust, trying to get ready to lay a coat of paint down. So here we're using wire wheels on our grinders instead of a regular grinding wheel. We're just trying to get up the rust, surface rust on the floor, as opposed to a grinding wheel, which will take up some of the metal on the floor too. Getting all paint on. Wait, you need that bag?
Yeah.
We're all done grinding. Time for some paint. What color did we settle on?
For the cover up the rust?
Yeah.
Going with black.
So the paint's all dry on the floor. We just got done going around. We were using silicone and covering up all the little holes from the screws and stuff. The seats were, and around the wheel wells. Some spots where the holes were a little bigger, we just patched. I cut pieces of aluminum out and silicone around the hole and just placed it down and just went over it, sealed it all up around the edges. This is the stuff we used, 100% silicone. I like this because it's, when it dries, it's flexible, it's waterproof, it handles up to like 400 degrees or something, mold resistant, and it's easy to work with. You can touch it in like a half hour, it's tack free. So we painted it first, just because I felt like it was easier to find all the holes. Before it was like rusty and all different colored. It was kind of hard to pick out all the holes, but when it's one color, it's a little easier to go over everything. I know some people like to seal everything before. I don't know if one's better than the other, but that's just how we did it. So we're gonna let all these little spots dry a little longer, and then we'll start with the subfloor and insulation. All right, today we're framing out the floor. Then get the insulation board in, and hopefully get the plywood down on top of that. These 2x4s, we're just fastening them with self-tapping bits right here. And the way we're doing this is we get 2 drill bits, a big one. We make sure this size is bigger than the head of the screw to kind of countersink it into the 2x4. You can see that. So we drill a little bit into the 2x4. You can see we only drilled like halfway, and then the rest of the way we drill it out with this, and this size drill bit is wider than the threads on this screw, just so when we screw this in, it doesn't try to catch on the threads of the 2x4. Just goes straight through, catches the metal, and then pulls the 2x4 down. Yeah, I mean, I think some people glue them down, or not sure what everybody does, but that's the way we're doing it. The rest of the 2x4s, I think we're gonna line them up with the windows, like the ribs of the bus. Because when we drew out the floor plans, we tried to have everything match up with like the windows. That way, like cabinets and stuff, we're not just screwing to the floor, we can screw into these ribs too. Also, we just like how set things up so, like, you know, the fridge isn't halfway in between a window or something like that. What?
Different
Drill.
drum? Actually, it might be on.
And stripes, dots, and linen are on sale from just $15 for women, $12 for girls, and $5 for girls. Wait, bring them buy online and pick for free. Hurry in to OldNavyandOldNavy.com for 40% off.
It's not right up against there, is that a problem?
Yeah, that's fine. Got everything framed out. Starting to put the foam board in. We got 1.5 inches. The R value's 7.5. Fits right in between the 2x4s, same height. What do you need?
Just trying to like fit pieces in here.
Let's do that big piece in the back first, and then do those little ones after. Yeah.
Actually, I didn't catch it.
Huh?
That one didn't catch. What the fuck?
Oh, you snapped it. It doesn't matter. It's broken.
That snapped too? No.
One thing we forgot to take into consideration is these sheets of plywood are 8 feet long, and we lined up the 2x4s with the ribs of the bus, which didn't come out to 8 feet, but it wasn't a big deal. We just cut the foam and added a 2x4 at 8 feet where the sheets are going to line up. So I did a bad job of filming this, but I'm trying to cut a curve out of a piece of plywood to match the wheel well for the subfloor. I'm measuring how far the wheel well sticks out. It's about 19 inches. I laid down a piece of plywood parallel with the wall of the bus, and I have a straight edge right here. I'm just using a dowel rod. I'm going to mark on the dowel rod 19 inches. I also have a square that I use against the piece of the plywood to keep the dowel rod perpendicular to the wall. And the basic idea is I'm going to move that square towards the back of the bus slowly, and as I do, I'm going to have to push the dowel rod out as the wheel well protrudes out, and I'm going to mark on the plywood right at the mark on the dowel rod. And I have to keep in mind the plywood is about 1 inch away from the wheel well, so I have to add 1 inch when I start. So once I get done marking all the way around the wheel well, I'm going to have a bunch of dots on the piece of plywood. Then I'm just going to go over them with the marker, connect the dots, make a line across, and I'm going to go over that line, cut it out with a jigsaw, lay the plywood down, slide it over the wheel well.